So as Nick said, my name's Sarah and I work at Kpmg. For those of you that don't know what Kpmg is, it's a very large accounting firm, often referred to as one of the big four. It employs over 150,000 people worldwide and pulls in a revenue of about 125 billion. Climate change and sustainability is a very small slice of that, but it's growing. And I think it's an interesting parallel and observation in the industry that accounting firms are taking on a role in climate change and sustainability. It's showing how important sustainability is to businesses and that there is a market there for it. So within Kpmg, there's advisory and accounting. So there's basically two sides to the firm. And the accounting arm comes into the firm in terms of audit. And so there's a lot of work in audit in the environmental sector, as Wendy said, in OH&S and environmental compliance. And then there's the advisory side, which is really helping businesses to deal with the complexities of sustainability and environmental management. So if you asked me 10 years ago what I'd think if I was working in an accounting firm in 10 years' time, I'd probably have a bit of a breakdown thinking my mum had convinced me to be an accountant. I'm quite surprised at the diversity of roles in sustainability now. Just even seeing you all here today is inspirational, because when I started my science degree in environmental science, there was 10 people in the class, and by the third year there was 5. So it's great to see so many people here, and it's great to see the diversity of degrees and the diversity of roles that await once you guys have graduated. So I was thinking on the way over here what inspired me to start working in environment, and it made me think of a course that I did with Wendy, which was Education for Sustainable Development. I'm sure some of you have taken it. And it made me think about my upbringing and how I was quite exposed to the natural environment. I grew up on a hobby farm and my dad was very frugal, so environment and water conservation was quite important. That really inspired in me a sense of the importance of the environment and sustainability from an early age. And since that time, I've really been working to inspire that in other people. But unlike Sam, I disagree. I think there's a lot of people working in the environment sector that aren't necessarily passionate about it, because it's really an externality in terms of carbon and energy and water that's becoming an internality. So it's becoming a business as usual job, which I'm quite happy about, because to me that equals success. There's definitely many, many people that are really passionate about working in sustainability, but then I also sit next to lots of accountants who are really passionate about their job, but not necessarily passionate about the environment. And quite honestly, I don't care, because we're all working together to create sustainability, and businesses care about that. And that really, to me, means that it's business as usual, it's getting integrated, it's not a side movement as much as it used to be, as much as it was when I started. And I think there's a place for business, there's a place for NGO, and there's a place for government. And I'm fortunate enough to have worked in all those sectors, and it's given me quite a good perspective of where businesses and community are coming from and the way that they look at sustainability, which then helps me to sell sustainability and to inspire that connection in a variety of different sectors. So basically, when I started off, I did a degree in environmental science at Sydney. I then went over to South America and had a bit of a jaunt, but I did take up an NGO role as an environmental educator for a couple of months. And when I came back, I was faced with the daunting task of unemployment, potentially, given that the sector wasn't very large. And I think I must have put out 40 or 50 job applications before I got the first job in local government, which I can say was a fantastic place to start my career. And as Sam was showing before, just the diversity of experience you can have in local government, be it water quality, urban planning, transport, education. I was exposed to all of those different areas from a community and business perspective in local government. So I also worked at City of Ryde with Sam, and then about 5 years into that I decided that I needed to get a bit more of a perspective on what was happening in the industry. And it was also around the time where there was the Copenhagen Summit, and I really wanted to get involved in the NGO movement in an employed capacity rather than a volunteering capacity. And so I took on a contract at the Australian Conservation Foundation, which I might add is a great place to volunteer and a great place to work. I did a 3-month contract there, and it was on climate change and CPRS. And although the outcome wasn't as positive as what we hoped for, there was certainly an increase in an understanding and engagement with climate change issues across the industry. From there, I went into the private sector, and I worked in a small environmental consultancy where I worked with a lot of manufacturing businesses, worked in a couple of different companies trying to embed environment within policy and regulation, and then got my position at Kpmg where I am now. And I think from my experience, all of those sectors have been fantastic, and I wouldn't put one over the other, but they're all certainly very different, and they leave you with a lot of different skills, be it strategy or education, be it looking at costs and economics. I mean, all of the different things that you guys are learning in environmental management and your other degrees, it's all out there in the industry, and it's really finding what you're passionate about. And sometimes it's finding what you're not passionate about too by trying different things. Which really brings me to some of the, I guess, things that I've learnt through working in the industry. And the first one, echoing Wendy's sentiments, is volunteering. I guess I did a lot of volunteering when I was at university because the sector was quite small, and so I needed to get that volunteering on my CV to potentially get a role, but also I was really passionate about what I was doing. Now when I employ graduates, I look for that because it shows me that they're passionate, they've got experience in the workforce, and of course they're going to go to the top of the pile over someone that's done their degree, got good marks, but hasn't necessarily got that practical experience. From my perspective, that's what I've seen employers do. So the other one would be really around diversity, and Sam Capelli would probably say this is a Gen Y thing, but I have tried quite a few different sectors, and it's been really good for me. I've got a different perspective on selling sustainability to different audiences, and I've also had exposure to a variety of different NRM sectors. So that's something that I'd encourage, just try out different things to find what you really want to do. And the third one would really be when you're in your job or when you're going for a job, just demonstrating a good work ethic. I know it sounds a bit dull, but good employers know that they can't buy a good attitude, and they can foster experience and skills within someone, but a good attitude is always far more sought after in the corporate and in local government and all government sectors. So if you can show that you're proactive and then that you've got a good work ethic and you've got a good attitude, then that's certainly going to get you a long way. So don't feel too downtrodden when you've got only a certain area of skills and you're building those up. I think it's just as important to show how passionate you are in the environmental sector. So I don't want to take up too much more time because we've got 2 other speakers, but if you've got any questions after, feel free to come and have a chat.